Okay, basic soloing part 2. We're going to take what we just learned about knowing your root notes and following the chords, and we are going to put them into play with a 1-4-5 chord progression in A. I've got an A chord, a D chord, and an E chord, okay? And I'm going to start out by playing just in the main pentatonic pattern at the 5th fret for A, and I'm going to play over each of those chords and show you just an example of how you want to focus on the notes, okay? Now, when we talk about this, there's one more little thing that you want to know about, in that there are two types of notes in a scale pattern. There are chord tones and passing tones. The chord tones are the notes the chord is made up of. Now, I've talked to you about knowing your root notes. Hopefully, eventually you take it further and you know more than just your root note, but hopefully you know where all the notes from that A chord are. The root note, the 3rd, the 5th. Hopefully you know where all the notes from your D chord are, the root note, the 3rd, the 5th, and so on. All right? There are chord tones, and then there are passing tones, tones that you pass through. They're not chord tones, and you want to avoid lingering on those notes when you're soloing. So you can potentially linger on a chord tone and pass through the other tones. Now, in this case, the only chord tone we're really going to focus on is the root note, so it should be pretty easy. All right? Again, real quick, the root notes for A, those, and that one. For D, those, and for E, over here. Okay? Now, if I'm playing an A chord, how about if I start with my A note? Okay? More A chord. How about we go to the D chord? Back to the A chord. Now I go to the E chord. The D chord. And back to the A chord. Okay? Hopefully you're hearing a little essential element of harmony in what I just played. These are obviously very simple riffs I'm doing, and I'm sticking very closely with that A minor pentatonic, but you see that I focused on the chord tones and specifically the root note of each chord as I went through the scale patterns. For the A, I did riffs that ended up on that A. For the D, I ended up on the D, and for the E, I ended up on the E. You want to apply this kind of thinking and follow the chords, knowing your root notes and eventually your other scale tones. And you want to be able to do this in every scale pattern. And you want to be able to do it not just with a 1-4-5 chord progression, but with all kinds of other chord progressions, all right? It takes a bunch of work, but you'll get there. Just go for it. Okay, in exercise 2, I'm going to show you a different way to approach this, the follow the chords mentality. Okay? And what I'm going to do is what we did in lesson 1. I'm going to go ahead and start with my A in that position at the 5th fret, and then I'm going to move my chord up and my scale pattern up into the 10th fret to play my D, up 2 more frets, and I'll have my E. Okay? Let's come back down here to A, and we'll start out with some riffs in A. All right, a D chord. Back to A. Up to E. I'm doing ridiculously simple stuff here, but it's the concept I want you to understand most of all. Know your root notes. Follow the chords. All right? And you do this kind of stuff, it will add a much higher level of sophistication to your playing. People will begin to hear the chord progression right in your soloing. All right? It takes work, it takes practice. You just, keep working at these things, explore new chord progressions, and find the root notes and follow the chords with those. You'll really, really build up your playing. All right?